Okay, so we're going to get started here with our very first recipe, which is one of my all-time favorite fall breads. It's a gluten-free fruit and nut bread and simple ingredients that can be changed out. So maybe today I'm using some dates and cranberries, and if you're watching your carbs, you can skip those and put in chopped apple, or you can put in some other favorites like nuts or seeds. So we have a combination of different things that we can do with this bread, but it is not needing to rise, so it's a fast bread. And if you don't have a Thermomix, you can do this in any kind of KitchenAid just as easily, or even possibly a blender, or if it's a small loaf, maybe one of those small food processors. So today you're going to see the superpower of the Thermomix. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out, which is wonderful. I don't actually have to have a measuring cup for this. There's a scale, and I'm just going to pour in. It says 40 grams of polenta, but I'm probably going to do a little bit, which is the same as cornmeal. And on the screen, it'll show me it's 30 grams. So I used some for the parchment paper over here. And then the next ingredient we have is, again, I'm doing different kinds of nuts here, which I've chopped up almonds. I've got some dried cranberries in here and some pumpkin seeds, but you can put whatever your favorite things are. So then after that, we're going to add our flour. So cornmeal I did, and now the gluten-free blend. So this blend, again, people who are watching their carb count might want to switch out wheat flours and use, in this case, I used a bit of sorghum flour, some quinoa flour, and I believe a little coconut flour and rice flour, but not a lot of rice flour. So it's nice to have this on hand in your kitchen. So I need 70 grams. I'm just going to hit that scale and measure out 70 grams of this gluten-free blend. And you can keep this in a fridge for quite a while. I always like to have it on. Okay, and so then after that, we're going to add in our buckwheat flour. And buckwheat is the same as kasha, if you don't know. It's a really healthy grain, but it is actually not at all going to drive your glycemic index up. It's more like a grass than a wheat grain or any of those other type of grains. So, and it calls for 60 grams. I'll go back to 0. I think I've already pre-measured this. There we go, 60 grams of the buckwheat flour. And one after that is the gluten-free baking powder and your baking soda, a half a teaspoon. And this recipe, as I said, will be posted. And now we want to put in our seeds and our nuts and salt. So cranberries, seed, salt, and nut together. And it's only it's a very small amount of salt. I'm just going to measure it like this. Don't need a teaspoon for this. I know what a half a teaspoon looks like, approximately. And you can add, instead of what I have here today, instead of the honey, again, honey can drive your glycemic index up. You can use other ingredients like a monk fruit, or in this case, I've got beautiful pure maple syrup, which I love to put in all kinds of recipes. It's just low glycemic and really healthy. So I'm going to add in the nuts. It says about 30 grams dried cranberry, so I've already got them in here. The pitted dates are chopped here. And we have the seeds all going in together. So this is one lovely little treat. So continuing on, I've got 120 grams of millet flour. Again, a nice grain that you can cook with. And I think I pre-measured it, so there you go. Actually, we're going to start using the machine here and blend this in. So it says for this particular recipe, we're going to blend it, mixing it only on speed 1, which is a very slow speed, and at speed 10, which is, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Doesn't take long on this machine. If you were doing this by hand, you could probably just get it blending, just to get the ingredients all, combined nicely. That's it. Really quick. So you can just see inside the bowl here, it's all blended up, the baking powder and everything. And we're going to add the honey. Instead of that is my maple syrup. So it says 1 tablespoon. A tablespoon is here. I actually like more maple syrup, but you don't have to. If you're watching your glycemic index, keep the maple syrup low. And then we add the buttermilk. So it says 330 grams. There we go. And we're going to do reverse blade on here, and that's because I don't want to actually chop. We've already done our chop of the nuts, so reverse blade on here allows me to not use the blade. And it says for 20 seconds. It's kind of fun in this Thermomix. Everything is measured in seconds, not minutes, because it is such a powerful blade, and it is already on reverse. Oh, speed 1. And that's a slow stir. So it's just trying to combine everything. And then we will add our last little ingredient here, the nuts and seeds. And it'll be just about ready to go in the oven. So gluten-free breads, for a lot of people, can be intimidating. And I found that the more you experiment with different flours, I've used quinoa flour, sorghum flour. Watch if you're using some of those flours that don't have much binding, that you have to add xanthan gum. So I'm just going to add all our goodies in here. There. Give it another 10 seconds on a slow stir. And what we're going to do is put it right into the cookie sheet and shape it into a loaf. Get this out of the way. And I just dusted it with a bit of cornmeal on this. The nice thing about the design of this is I can get this particular spatula right in here all around the blades, so you don't wreck your spatulas. They think of everything at Thermomix. Okay, and this is actually quite an easy thing to clean. I'll just put it over here. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to sprinkle a little more of this as I shape it on top. Okay, it's a very easy bread to make. It doesn't take long, and when you're doing it in a non-Thermomix machine, you can probably just blend all of this very easily in a regular old mixer even. I'm kind of making it a little bit more rounded. It's a little bit wetter than usual. I don't know. Okay, that's that. And we're going to pop it in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. So here we are with the gluten-free bread with the nuts and cranberries, and it is very low rising, just so you know. That is normal. Sometimes it's a little bit higher than this, but it's a very delicious bread with a lovely slice of brie. I'll cut a couple here for our guests, and it's lovely when it's served warm and fresh, though it does last a few days. And we're going to put a little teeny bit of brie, excuse my little fingers here, on that piece, one on that piece. And I also made this beautiful for the family Thanksgiving last night. I made this beautiful chutney, which is basically red onion and cranberry, dried cranberry. And of course, Thanksgiving we always have cranberries. So it's a take on the cranberry relish, and with a bit of balsamic. And if you don't want the sweetness from the cranberries, just use the not dried cranberries, buy the unsweetened ones, and then it will not have a high sugar count. So a little dollop of this on top just gives it a nice little zingy flavor. Whoop. Get it right on top of the brie, and you'll be in heaven. That's that.